Hi guys, welcome to another video. So you've just learned the AMPscript syntax, the fundamentals and the basics. Now we get to play with some functions. So this is going to be a cool one, going to be a fun one, lots to cover. So again, a quick tip, watch at 1.5 times speed for quicker learning. Let's get to it. So for today's video, we're going to cover these functions here. So these functions are probably the most common ones that you'll see for email and SMS message builds. It's the one that you'll use day to day. So I've collated all the useful ones that you'll need to know. There's a lot of different ones out there, it's probably not so relevant, so just focus on these for now in week 1. So the first one being trim and the second one being Propercase. So I did showcase to you or gave you a preview of it in the previous video. Today I'm going to show you in more detail and in more use cases and how they look like in the code. Follow up with Uppercase and Lowercase. Just as the name suggests, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to take you through some FormatNumber functions. So this is pretty useful, especially when you want to reformat numbers in your data extension, like balance points or even currency values like transaction value, last purchase value, stuff like that. You want to display nicely in an email and SMS. And finally, the most useful one probably is Concat. So Concat I use almost day to day. It's so useful, especially when you're concatenating or combining variables and strings together. So that's a very useful one, and I'll show you how that works within the AMPscript code. Alright, let's get to it. So I'm going to do a live coding demonstration with you today to demonstrate how these functions work. You know, most of the time the documentation online, the code is already there and you kind of just have to understand how it works. So I'm going to show you how to actually code it from scratch, and hopefully that helps with your understanding. So what you see on the side here is some sample data, and we're going to go through the list in terms of how the functions work. Looking at the list here, the first thing, every time you work with some sort of data, you always want to look, okay, straight off the bat, what looks wrong with it? I can see, you know, the first name is in lowercase, some has random spacing, some in all caps. So obviously all these functions here is going to help us clean up that first name data. And we're going to use it within an AMPscript block. So let's get into the tool. Actually, let's get into AMPscript.io and I'll show you so you can see all the different syntaxes highlighted. Okay, cool. So now we have that sample data on the left, and we have the AMPscript.io browser on the right, so we can write our code. So first step, always open up your opening and ending tags for your AMPscript block, like so. Create some space, and again, good practice, so it's easy, to read and comprehend. So the first step here, okay, we want to clean up the first name data. So as you know, some of these first name fields, as you can see, has random spacing in here. So this is when the trim function comes into play. What the trim function does, it allows us to remove any spacing before or after the text or the string in the field that we want to trim. So in this case, if you look at it in a data extension, sometimes you won't see the trailing spaces. So for example, if I highlight, you can see there's a space here. So if I were to present something or display something in an email or SMS message, and if I do something like this, right, I use a personalization string as so, welcome to the family, and I don't realize that there's trailing spaces, it will look something like this, imagine it was James, space, welcome to the family. That's why it's so important that we trim our values, especially if we know that there's data inconsistencies like the first name field here. Same with the spaces in the front. It will look something like this if it's not cleaned up, right? Not a good customer experience. So to do that, first step is always to retrieve the field that we want to transform in the sending data extension. So this is the first step. I'm going to retrieve the first name field from the sending data extension. And again, it's always good to copy and paste this, especially from the actual data extension field name here. For demonstrating purposes, I just typed it here, but you guys get the point. So once we've retrieved the first name field from the sending data extension, now we want to create a new variable to be the result of our function that we want to perform, right? So I'm going to create a new variable here, and again, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it first name trim equals. Now the function is simply just trim bracket. Okay, so this is the function, and inside the bracket is the variable that we want to trim. So in this case, because we already assigned the first name variable here as the value in the first name field from the sending data extension, now we want to make sure we use this variable inside this function, right? And that's it. This first name trim variable is now going to be the result of the function that we're performing here, which is trimming the first name value. So after we've done that, now we use this variable and we want to print out this variable instead, right? So I'm going to copy and paste this. Now in my SMS, or whether it's in your email subject line or copy, you're going to do %, paste in your variable inside. And now, if you remember, equal sign here, V bracket, and then close the bracket, equal sign. And that's printing out or outputting your variable that you created above here. So this will be hosted in the code snippet block. This will be outputted in the actual message. So now once we've done that, all the trailing spaces will be removed like so. So that's the first step. That's very simple. That's your trim function. So as you know, in our data extension here though, James is actually written like this, Peter written like this, right? It's all in lowercase. It hasn't been, cleaned up just yet. So let's do this for a second. Okay, so this is what our data will look like now. All we've done so far is simply just removing the spaces, as you can see here, from at the start and after the string. So we're not done yet. We need to Propercase it now. So this is when the next function comes into play, which you guys have seen, which is the Propercase function. So I'm going to call this, I can call this first name proper, or I can call it as final name, right? Because this is going to be the final variable that I want to output in the actual subject line. So now, simply apply the Propercase function. It's literally the word Propercase, bracket, bracket, and inside this bracket here, what variable now do I want to Propercase? So a lot of my students, at first will get this wrong. You might assume that, okay, I want to Propercase this first name field here, right? Because that's the variable that I assigned the field name from the sending data extension. That's actually wrong, because what you've done here now is that you've totally ignored what you've done, all your hard work that you've done here in terms of trimming the variable, and now you're just going to Propercase this first name variable, which is what you retrieve from the sending data extension, which still has the trailing spaces. So although you may have, Propercased it like so, but you're leaving the spaces in the actual field, in the actual variable, right? Which is still incorrect, like so. So what you want to do, and you want to make sure to test, is you want to Propercase this first name trim field. Because this first name trim field is the result after we've already trimmed the first name variable. So if we insert this variable in here now when we want to use this final name in here, then it's our final name that is trimmed and it's in Propercase. And that's what we want in the actual message. So that's your Propercase function. And I guess the importance here is understanding how the variables work with one another, especially if you're using one or two more functions in play. So here we're using trim and then we're using Propercase. And again, we want to ensure we Propercase the trimmed variable, not Propercase the original variable that we retrieved from the sending DE that hasn't been trimmed yet. Cool. Okay, so moving on to uppercase and lowercase. So those are pretty straightforward. It's simply as what the name suggests, right? Your uppercase means you're making all the characters in all caps, and lowercase, you're lowercasing all the characters in the actual string. So in terms of uppercase, simply create a new variable. Again, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it first name upper equals, and simply use the uppercase function, bracket, bracket, right? Now, inside the bracket, again, which variable do you want to uppercase? Obviously, this first name trimmed variable, right? Because this is the variable that already removes the spaces before and after the text. So we uppercase this, and now if we want this to be in uppercase, we can simply just use this variable in here, and now all our first name values will be in uppercase, like so. Right? Straightforward. So all our first name characters will now be in all caps because we're using the first name upper variable. So these are interchangeable, right? If you want to use an uppercase first name in section here, or you want to use it in another section, I'll show you in a bit in the actual tool. But as you can see here, once we've assigned a variable a value, We can use that variable anywhere else in different functions if we wanted to produce the result we want to produce in the email or SMS message. Same thing goes with lowercase. Really, I can just copy and paste this function here, change this to lowercase, change this to lower, and there we go. We're keeping the first name trim because we want to lowercase the trimmed value. And now if I want to print this variable out, I just replace this in here. And there you go. You know, all this will become lowercase. Obviously, this is not a right use case, but you kind of get the point, right? Cool. So I guess with these functions here, let's go into the tool now and see the actual result in real time of what it looks like in the platform. Okay, cool. So we're in Content Builder right now, and let's apply the AMPscript functions that we just did earlier in here. So simply drag in the code snippet block at the top of the email. So in here, you know, have your open and ending tags like so. And because, you know, we already written it in AMPscript.io, we can just copy and paste it. So let me copy and paste this section here. This is all our content, all our logic already done. We're going to paste it in here like so. Oops, let's remove the duplicates here. And there we go. So now let's see in which part of the email do we want to, you know, output these variables. So for the subject line, I want the Propercase function. Okay, so I'm going to do hi. Let's put the Propercase variable. So that means it's the final name variable. I'm going to paste it in here. Again with the syntax, %% equals v bracket, paste it in, equals %%. Welcome to the community, right? Let me zoom in here for you. Yep, so there we go, right? Hi, %% equals v bracket, final name equals %%. So this is where I want to output the Propercase first name. Now, say for example, I want here in the email subheader, I want it in all caps. So let's go back to our code snippet. We want to copy and paste this first name upper variable because this variable is the result of the uppercase function of the first name trim. And now we're going to paste it in here. Welcome, %%, paste in your variable, have two equal sign on the side, equals v, bracket, and bracket on the other side. And there we go. Welcome, first name uppercase. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. There's not really a use case for the lowercase first name, but you guys kind of get the point. Let's save this. And now let's preview our email. There we go. Hi, Emily. Welcome to the community. Welcome, Emily. See, very nice. That's how it works. Very easy stuff. Hi, David. Hi, David. See, it's in all caps for this one and in Propercase for this one. Let's see another one. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Jessica. So that's how it works. Propercase, uppercase, lowercase, and trim, how they work together. Cool. All right, let's move on to the next functions. Okay, so moving on to our next functions is FormatNumber and Concat. So let's go with FormatNumber first. So FormatNumber, as I mentioned before, is a good function when you want to play around with numbers in your data extension. So see in the balance point section here, these are all numbers. And say we want to display all these numbers here in the actual email send or SMS send. Right, so let's get rid of all this and let's start fresh. Boom, boom, boom. So say, for example, the marketer wants to display something like this. Here are your balance points. And they want you want to insert the balance points in here. So you can just, output using a personalization string the balance points, right? You think that's straightforward, that's easy, and there's no issues there? Well, you're wrong, because when you work with marketers, sometimes they can be, a tad a little, fixated on certain things. And in this case, displaying the numbers directly like this is not so, presentable, let's just say. what they want to display it as. So rather than say, for example, a number like this, they want to display the actual comma on the every 1,000, right? So if a number is like this, or numbers like this, or numbers like this, they want the comma in here, or in here. Boom, boom, like so. So how do you do this? So you can actually do this with AMPscript. So let's do this. The first step is always retrieve the field that we need to transform from our sending data extension. So I want to emphasize again, the first step, always look for the field name that we want to transform. In this case, it's going to be balance points. So let's create a new variable, balance points equals using square brackets, and let's copy and paste this balance points field into our code. Good, that's the first step done. Now, in order to transform these balance points or reformat it into something like this with the comma, it's really simple. All you need to do is create a new variable. I'm going to call it points formatted equals format number. Now, in the format number function, there's two components that you need to include. The two components include the first one being the actual variable that you want to reformat. And because we've assigned the balance points field value to our balance points variable, we're going to use our variable just as so in there, comma. Now the second component of the format number function is to actually output the exact format you want the number to be seen in. In this case, we're going to use double quotes, and all we're doing, let me extend this a tiny bit here, is hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. And that's it. That's literally all you need to do. And then when you want to print out this now, so again, we want to replace this with here. And then we want to add the equals v bracket, close the bracket, equals, that's the syntax to output the variable. Now this becomes this, right? It will add the comma for every 1,000. You don't have to specify for every 10,000 or 100,000 or every million. Doing it like this will actually fix all the numbers in that data extension, all the values with the appropriate comma where it needs to be. So very useful. This is something that you use a lot, especially if you work at a company that use some sort of loyalty program, because there's always going to be some sort of balance points. And this is how you actually format balance points so it looks nicely in an email or SMS message. So this one's a good one. Again, obviously you don't have to remember this by heart. You can always copy and paste. So I'll show you later. I have slides for each of these functions. You can just copy and paste the code and replace the variables that you need to replace. Really straightforward. Okay, cool. So the other format number function that I have for you today is to transform dollar values in your data extension. So just a reminder, with the format number function, there's actually a bunch of different functions that you can apply. In my code, in my template, I actually have a link to a documentation where you can see all the different types of reformats you can do to numbers. But these are the ones I've collated that are most useful to you, that you probably use day to day. So in terms of last transaction value, say for example, you have a data extension field where it has a decimal, right? So you have 50.00, 129.80, 100, 1020.55, or whatever it is, right? And you want to add the dollar sign in there. Maybe you want to round it up to the last two decimals. In this case, all the numbers are already in two decimals. But say if you want to round it up to two decimals, and you want to add in the comma in here as well, similar to the one before. How can you do this? Well, you can use a simple function. All you need to do is, actually, you can just keep this function here. Let's just change it up and replace the values. So all we need to do is first retrieve the last transaction value from the sending data extension, which I'm going to be putting it here. I'm going to change this to transaction value, like so. Now, in terms of the new variable, let's call it transaction value formatted equals format number. What do I want to format? I want to format this variable here. So copy and paste. And now the output. So what is going to be the output? It's literally just C, just like that. And doing it just like that will actually fix up all your values in your last transaction value. So it'll look like this, $50, like this, 129, 80, for example. And for records like this where it has multiple, it will actually have a comma like this, 0.55. Makes it very nice and clean. $16,421.45, like so. So this one's very useful, especially when you display it in an email and SMS message, and something to keep in the bag for sure. Okay, so let's jump in the tool now and then show you this in real time of what that looks like. Let's do that in an SMS message this time. Okay, so now we're in Content Builder and we have an SMS message opened up. So this is what it looks like in terms of the UI, the editor, for those who don't know, when you're creating an SMS message in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So similar to an email, you can actually apply AMPscript code inside the SMS message. Here, we just have an example of a personalization string using hi first name, welcome to the community. So let's get rid of this. Let's use our balance points. So maybe you want to have something like, congratulations, your total balance points for today is, and then let's print out the balance points. So let's go to our data extension, continue working. So say we have our balance points field here, and we use a personalization string for now just to see what it looks like. Okay, so let's click save, subscriber preview. And there we go. At the moment, it looks like this, pretty straightforward. But for records that have 1,000 or more than 1,000 plus, then you can see it doesn't have a comma just yet, right? 187, 299, 10,987, right? So let's apply our function. So to do this, you actually can create an AMPscript block at the top, just the same. So let's expand this. Now, again, let's create and retrieve our balance points field from the sending data extension using square brackets. Let's paste in our balance points in there, like so, right? Now, let's create a new function, a new variable, points formatted equals. Now we're gonna use format number, bracket, bracket. What are we gonna reformat? We're gonna reformat the balance points variable, like so, and then comma, and in double quotes, we're gonna use the output, which is hashtag, comma, hashtag, 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 and that's it. Now we wanna print out this variable in our actual message. So paste that in there using equals v, bracket, close the bracket, equals. And there we go. Let's click save. And let's preview. There we go. Congratulations, your total balance points for today is 10. Now for the record that has multiple, like so, there we go. We have a comma in there and we have a comma in there here. So you might be wondering, why is there random space at the top? That's because with SMS messages, you need to be mindful of the spaces in the actual message. So here, you actually need to remove the spacing up to the point where the last AMPscript closing tag ends. So you just have to delete, all the spacing above, click save, and now when you preview it, there we go. The space is gone, and now we have our balance points just as how we want it for the marketer with the comma on every 1,000. Pretty cool. Straightforward, easy to do. All right, so let's say, for example, we want to display the last transaction value now. So congratulations, your last, transaction value. Your last transaction value today is, this is obviously a random use case, but I just want to show you how to display last transaction value. So same thing here. Let's keep it simple. Actually, we already have the code in here, so why not just copy and paste this? Paste it in here, like so. So we have our last transaction value. We have our function format number at transaction value here with our variable and outputting at C. Now, congratulations, your last transaction value today is, now what do we want to print out? We want to print out this variable. Let's paste that in here. The syntax is already there. And click save. Let's preview it. There we go, $50, 129, 1,000. See, it has the comma in there as well. So it's very useful, as you can see, 401, 340, with the comma there as well. Nice. Very good. Okay, so the last function that I have for you guys today is Concat, and it's probably the most useful one that you'll use day to day. So what Concat does, it allows you to combine variables and strings together and assign it as one value to one variable. So it'll make more sense as I go through it with you. So say for example, let's start off simple. I want to concatenate the first name and last name of a record into one variable. So first step is to retrieve the first name value from the sending data extension like so, and assign it a value. First name equals, and let's retrieve the last name as well. Last name equals, and the last name variable, let's go back into our data extension, is this one here. Copy and paste last name variable just like that. So at the moment, if I want to combine the first name and last name in an actual message, you can just do this, right? Equals v bracket equals %, paste in the first name, like so, space, paste in this one, like so, and just print out the last name. So you can literally print out two variables side by side with a space in between, and that will get the result that you want, right? Obviously, after you've propercased it, you trimmed it and so forth, but technically, if you do something like this, you'll have your first name and last name side by side in the message, which is what you want to achieve. Say for example though, you do want to assign this as one variable. What you can do is use concat. So if we create a new variable now, and I'm going to call it full name equals. The concat function is simply concat bracket bracket, and inside the bracket is where you formulate the sentence or the string that you want to concatenate. So in this case, we're going to have the first name in here, like so, comma. So each component is separated by commas. Now, we want to make sure that we include this space here. If we were to just concatenate this straight away, so we have first name, comma, last name, it's going to look something like this, right? James Bond. There won't be any spaces in between. So we need to tell Marketing Cloud that we want a space in between, and to do that, we simply just add double quotes, space, comma. There we go. So now in this concat function, there's actually three components. There's the first name variable, comma, there's the space in between, comma, and then this is the last name variable here. And then this will fix it up and have it as James Bond, like so. So it's pretty straightforward. With concat, you just have to keep in mind the spaces in between the variables and the strings. And again, the strings is all wrapped in quotes, single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter. But that's how you kind of concatenate those two together. So in that way, all we need to do now is just print out this first name variable instead. Sorry, this full name variable instead, and this will output the following below. Something that's very useful. Okay, let's get in the tool and I'll show you how this works. So we're back in the tool here. Let's keep it in with an SMS message. Say the message is something like, please confirm this is your full name. Oh, so what do we want to do? Let's open our AMPscript block. Oh, like so. Let's retrieve our first name field. And let's actually apply the Propercase function as well. So set last name equals bam. Let's retrieve the last name field. Like so. Let's do a Propercase and let's do a trim and Propercase. So set first name trim equals trim. So you can see in real time now how we're using the other functions as well. Trim the first name. And then we're going to do final first name equals Propercase. So, and we want to Propercase the first name trim. Nice. So let's do the same. I want to copy and paste this down below. I'm going to call this last name. Again, please, leverage the copy and paste. You want to save time for sure. You don't want to retype things over and over again. Last name trim, copy and paste. To copy and paste, you just double click, and you can highlight the whole variable. It's very simple. And now let's concatenate these guys. So full name equals concat, bracket. The first component is going to be my final first name here, comma, separate the components. The next bit's going to be the space. So add the space in here in double quotes, comma. The final component is the final last name variable. Copy and paste this and paste it in there. And that's it. So now when I print out my full name variable, it's going to be the concatenated version. So put that in there, equals v bracket, close the bracket, equals v. So this v here, it doesn't matter. It can be lowercase or uppercase. Both work fine. Click save. Oh yeah, I want to make sure I remove the spacing as well, like so. Save, and let's preview this. And there we go. James Bond, Peter Parker, Sarah Johnson. It all works now. So you probably notice I kind of avoided this one is because these functions at the moment haven't catered to records that don't have a value in either the first name or last name field. So you probably got a preview from the previous video where we used an if, else, and end if statement or conditional statement to provide a default value. So I'll go into deeper detail for that in next week's lesson, in week 2, where we dive deep into conditional statements. But if you have already a good understanding based on the examples I showed you earlier, then you can definitely have a go for sure. But as you can see here, for all the other records that do have a first name or last name populated, you can see how the concatenation works, the concat function. After we've propercased it, we can just print it out as one variable other than 2 separate variables. Cool. So a better use case for concat is actually when you want to concatenate a variable with an actual full sentence, and you want to print that out as one variable in either the email subject line or in an SMS message. So let's actually go back to the subject line, so the email here. So say example, at the moment we have, hi Jessica, welcome to the community. So rather than actually having, the actual variable outputted in this section here, we can actually just make the full subject line as one variable using concat. So let's take a look at the code snippet here. Let's copy and paste this into our AMPscript.io so then we can read it a lot easier. Okay, so we have our variables here. And say, for example, we want, hi, first name, welcome to the community, as one variable. So all we need to do is create a new variable. We're going to call it subject line equals concat. Now, essentially what we need to do is build out this sentence in the concat function. So the first word that we can use and classify as a string will be this section here, including the space, right? So in double quotes, we want to have hi, space, comma. So this is our first part of the subject line, first part of the sentence. The first name here is going to be our dynamic variable. So we want to make sure we use the final name here as a dynamic variable and paste it as so, comma. Now the next part of the string is everything that's remaining after the first name variable, right? Which is everything up to here. So all we need to do is copy and paste this in double quotes like so. And that's it, right? All we're doing here is creating the sentence that we want in our subject line. If you look at this and break it down into strings and variables, we can see that the first component here is a string, the second component here is a variable, and the third component here is a string, just as it's represented here. And now all we need to do is print out this subject line variable like so in the subject line, and it will actually have this populated when we preview and test. So let's give that a go now. Let's just copy and paste what we have in here into our content builder like so. And now we just want to print out the subject line. %= equals v. Oh, %, paste in your subject line variable, and now we want to do equals v, like so, and click save, done, save, and let's preview. And there we go. Hi Jessica, welcome to the community. Hi David. Hi Emily. Oh, glitch. Hi Michael. And yeah, you guys get the point, right? So you actually can use Concat to create full sentences. And say, for example, I want to add in another variable in here. So let's look at our data extension. Oh, let me refresh this. Okay, so let's look in our data extension. So what fields can we use? Yeah, let's use loyalty tier. So say, for example, in our subject line now, we want to say, hi, Michael, congrats on your loyalty tier membership. Yeah, maybe that works. Hi, Michael, congrats on your tier membership. So let's go back to AMPscript.io. Say, for example, we want to go, congrats on your tier. This is what we're going to make dynamic. Membership, like so, okay? So obviously this is going to be a dynamic variable. So in here, what we've built in our concat sentence, let's break it down into strings and variables. So the first component here we already have is the string. Second component we already have is the first name. Now let's print out everything up to loyalty tier, right? Because this is now another string. Loyalty tier is our variable, so we don't want to include that in the double quotes. So let's copy that, paste that in here. This is our third component now. We're going to add a comma here, and now we want to include the loyalty tier variable. So we haven't retrieved that from the setting data extension just yet, so let's do that now. Set loyalty tier equals bracket bracket, and we're going to go back to our data extension, paste it in here. Oh, where are we? Paste it in here. So now we have the loyalty tier variable assigned, and we're going to use this variable in here, just like so. Boom. So that's going to take care of this variable. Now we add a comma, and our final missing piece to the sentence is everything from tier to membership. Paste that in here, like so. Let's zoom out, make sure there's no spaces, and there we go. So this sentence here requires 4 components. You have your hi, you have your first name, you have congrats on your, you have your loyalty tier, and then you have your membership. And of course, keep in mind of all the spaces. So now we can just copy and paste this, like so, into our content builder. So we don't actually have to change this at all because it's the same variable. Just paste it in there, done, save, and let's preview. And there we go. Hi Michael, congrats on your diamond membership, right? Hi Emily, congrats on your bronze membership, congrats on your silver membership. So it's very cool. It's a really automated in that sense where you can actually just create the full subject line, make it dynamic. And as you can see, there's a lot of benefits to doing this. It's really tailored and personalized to the customer based on the data. Cool. I guess another point here is you want to make sure you add comments. So to add comments for future reference, you can go logic for first name cleaning. So I have everything under there. And then I can do logic for subject line. As so. Maybe I can include this in here. It's really up to you, but you kind of get the point. Having comments in your code makes it look nice, well documented, and you can reference it in the future. Cool, so that's pretty much it. Let's go back to the PowerPoint and look at the slides. So for each of these functions here, I do have their own PowerPoint. I actually just rather, let me just open here, let me zoom in here. I just rather show you in real time in terms of the coding. So now you can look back on these slides for reference and you kind of understand what is happening. So the way I laid out these slides here is just a one-pager. So you have the function, the definition, you have some sample data, you have the client use case, the code snippet, the output, and the result. So something that's very handy, you actually have a copy of all these slides in the resource links below. But yeah, very helpful for you guys, right? You can always just copy and paste these code snippets as well and change the variables that you need to change in order to suit your use case. So very straightforward with the trim. It removes the spaces at the beginning and the end. You have your Propercase, capitalizes the first character. All remaining characters will be in lowercase, as so. Very simple, very easy to follow. Uppercase, pretty straightforward. Lowercase, you have your format number. So again, with this, you can always just copy and paste. I know in the live demo, I did kind of code it with you from scratch, is because it's very straightforward. And once you get experience, you can do something like that. But really nowadays, you don't have to code anything from scratch. As long as you have the resource, the code snippet saved, you can just copy and paste, be efficient, and just change the variables that you need to change. All right. So then, yep, you're printing out the balance points in this format, cleans it up, adds the comma. In terms of the transaction total value, you can add the $, it adds the comma for you as well, which makes it very nice in an email and SMS send. Obviously with the format number, in this case, it's just a C. Oh yeah, the link here. So the AMPscript guide is actually a very useful documentation. It's online as well. You can have a look. There's a bunch of different format number functions out there that will transform your numbers into so many different formats. You know, the C and the hashtags are probably the most useful ones that I personally use. I haven't really had to use anything else, but feel free to have a look. Now you know how the function works in terms of the format number. There's always two components. First component here is the variable that you want to format. The second component is the output you want to reformat it to, right? So easy to follow. And finally, your concat. This is probably the most useful one for sure. Here I just have a simple example, concatenating the first and last name together, as well as keeping in mind the spaces in between. Obviously, the most, useful use case is when you want to concatenate variables within a full sentence, like a subject line or even an SMS message. So you can concatenate, not just one variable, but multiple variables in the sentence. So use concat, build your sentence out, include the spaces, and then you can just print out one variable, like in the subject line. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it. These are the functions that I want to show you today. We went through all of them one by one. These are the use cases that you use each of the functions for. Cleaning up the user input, that's when you want to use trim. Standardizing the first name, Propercase, Uppercase for email subheaders or discount codes, Lowercase for normalizing maybe email addresses, that's probably a more relevant use case. And your format numbers, you can add the commas into like balance points or some sort of number field, and as well as reformat the currencies, adding the $, and also adding the comma. And finally, concat, really useful for personalizing greetings or subject lines or email headers or SMS messages, concatenating multiple variables into one sentence to create one output for a variable. Makes it so much easier and more efficient. Cool. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Learn these functions, go through the slides. You'll have a copy in the description below, because in the next video, we're going to go through some sample briefs and you're going to practice your learnings in there. So yeah, see how you guys go. Again, if you like my content, please feel free to follow me on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok at VinCodes. I post day in the life videos, tips and tricks, life as a Salesforce Marketing Cloud consultant. So if you're interested in that career, have a look. And if you haven't already, please leave me a testimonial. It will mean a lot in the testimonial page. Post a comment, add a photo or add a video, share your learning journey with others as well. I really want to read them as well, see how you go, and give me feedback as well so I can help improve my content so it will help you improve as well. That's pretty much it, guys. If you know anyone, please share the community. Let's grow the community together. I really want a strong community where all the professionals can help and inspire each other, and let's take our career to the next level. So excited to see how this goes. See you in the next video.